What is well-being? According to Canadians, it is defined as the presence of the highest possible quality of life through a wide range of domains.
Manitoba is home to not only the first community foundation in Canada, and that was the Winnipeg Foundation established in 1921, but as of 2024, at 58 community foundations and counting, Manitoba is home to, per capita, the highest concentration of community foundations anywhere in North America. And when I think of this notion of community well-being, and this work that Manitoba Blue Cross has been amazing in helping to pioneer and to support around a Canadian Index of Wellbeing or Manitoba Index of Wellbeing, I see it as an incredible union. Because in many ways, what we're attempting to do is enhance community well-being through our grants, through our charitable activities. And that can be, and it has always been, what some people affectionately call a 360-degree grantor. But really what that means to us is we grant to where community needs support. So is it in healthy populations? Is it in arts and recreation? Is it in community vitality? Wherever there's a need is where you'll see us providing grants to, providing charitable activities, putting on conferences, doing research, partnering with organizations such as Manitoba Blue Cross. And for us, the big question we always have is, how are we making those decisions? And for us to be accurate, for us to be effective, for us to be bona fide in our decisions, it has to rely on information, both quantitative and qualitative information. And when I look at the Canadian Index of Wellbeing and its application in Manitoba, and again, the report that you guys have just put out, I see a perfect union where there is evidence-based information on how we're doing as a community in terms of both what we're doing well, but also where we're maybe struggling, where our challenges are. And to me, the only negative to that is really that we haven't addressed it yet. But the positives are huge. The upsides are amazing because with that information, we can now say, okay, not only do we need to put more resources, whether it's grants or it's support in these areas, but it provides us an opportunity to work with others that, again, through an index of well-being, allows us to speak the same language. It's not just about what the community foundation movement is doing. It's not just about what the charitable sector is doing, but now we can have conversations with the public sector, with the private sector about common issues, common challenges, common interests that I would argue didn't exist before something like an index of well-being provides. Because not only does it provide a common language, but it provides a common reference point. Like that's the whole point of an index. It tells you how you were doing and how you are doing. And if we do our jobs well collectively, it allows us to focus on the future we want to have, as opposed to the one that we just accept happening. So we often talk about community foundations focusing on all aspects of well-being, and it's true, we do. We view their interaction and integration as critical to understanding well-being and to being able to affect change in well-being. So suffice to say that nothing happens in isolation. And so as we look at the 8 major domains, the 8 areas of life in community, it was challenging to just look at one and go, well, what's happening here without also reflecting on, well, how does this, what's the story behind the story? And for me, I focused on community vitality. And I looked at it and I said, these results aren't great. It was probably one of the most challenging areas of life, areas of well-being domains. And I said, why are those numbers as low as they are? Were they surprising? No. Were they disappointing? In many ways, yes. But only so far that the results were disappointing, but the opportunities create hope. And so in terms of results, I know there's an irony to this because this is virtual, this is social media. But what's really interesting is if you look at the dynamic between, for those of you that aren't aware, community vitality is really about people's sense of belonging, people's sense of connection to their community, people's sense of safety and security and trust. Again, it's really about belonging, and at the end, it's like the social fabric of who we are as Canadians, as Winnipeggers, as Brandonites, as any Manitoba community. And what the results were telling us was that fabric is fraying a bit. And what I found interesting, especially the data points from the mid 90s to 2020, is that a great deal of that mirrors the rise of social media. A great deal of that mirrors the rise of transactional, more superficial relationships at the expense of what we're doing right now. And you can't see this, but we're in person. Communities change over time. They evolve. There was a time where community was 100% geolocated. You belong to this community because you live there. Over time, it became you belong to this community because of specific spiritual or religious beliefs. And again, this isn't a reflection on good, bad, or neutral. That was just a reality. In the past 5, 10, 15 years, what we've seen is new communities forming, and those have been mostly based on social media. And I would say that while I have no objection to social media and I see so many benefits to it, I also look at the transactional, superficial relationships that are often tied to it. And do those compare to whether it's religious groups or sports teams or activities or, gaming nights with your friends? No. And I think until we recognize that giving up a little bit of the transactional and investing a little bit more into the in-person, into what I consider like the real world, I think until we do that, we're going to keep seeing a fragmentation of our sense of belonging. And in some situations, our sense of reality, right? Because reality is defined by multiple perspectives. And I think that combined with the unbelievable challenging effects and impacts of the pandemic have really frayed our sense of belonging, our sense of connection between friends, between families, between groups that I would say in modern age has never been seen before. And I think it's important that it was recognized. I think it's important that we address it. And again, gratitude towards the work that you've taken, the research that's been undertaken to bring this to light. Because I think inherently we see it, but until you see the numbers, it's hard to have that conversation about what that actually looks like. Like those numbers indicate a strong fragmentation that I would argue 30 years ago we wouldn't have seen. 50 years ago would have been unheard of. I think it's important that we recognize it and that we address it in not just one manner and not just one respect, but multifaceted. Beyond background, beyond ideology, beyond genders, in a way that really brings more people together. To have conversations like this, to have conversations about their community, to have conversations about the future they want. And again, I feel like what an index of well-being does, what the Manitoba Index of Wellbeing does, it allows for those conversations to have, even the challenging ones, even the ones that we were told when we were younger, you shouldn't talk about these things. I think we need to get back to a place, if we want people to feel psychologically safe, if we want people to feel not only that they belong, but they can contribute, that they're important, and they can even maybe challenge some of our long-held beliefs about the way we operate and the way the world operates. That's a good thing. And so that I found both in some ways concerning, kind of crestfallen, but also hopeful. Because until you measure it, you can't really do anything about it. And now we're measuring it. So our call to action is, what do we do about it? We have, for the past 5 years and probably 10 years now, going strong, have been, it's been hammered home over and over again that the new type of warfare is misinformation. There's misinformation about healthcare. There's misinformation about government. There's misinformation about the various sectors. It's creating distrust, and it's adding to that sort of the fragmentation or the fraying of our societal connections and our relationships and our sense of belonging. And what I really appreciate about the Manitoba Index of Wellbeing, and again, my gratitude for the leadership of Manitoba Blue Cross in championing this and supporting this very worthwhile initiative, is that in many ways its very existence counters misinformation. Because not only is the evidence being brought forward validated, but when it's connected to community and it's brought together to convene and to talk about, it creates a truth that we can all share, as opposed to the misinformation that divides. If there was one piece of advice I could give to the average Manitoban about improving community vitality, it would be to first recognize that you matter, that your voice matters, that your experience matters, that your knowledge matters. Second, that you belong here. And third, if you recognize that you matter and that you belong here, to get involved, to bring your ideas, to bring your energy, to bring yourself forward in any, if it's at home, if it's with friends, if it's at work, if it's volunteering, to just be your most authentic self and to come together, and wherever possible, let's work on this. Because a wise person once said that the definition of philanthropy is love of another. And when I think of the Index of Wellbeing, when I think of Manitoba Blue Cross, when I think of the Manitoba Community Foundation network, it really is love for another. And it's not just love for another, but it's an investment in a future that we may never see, but that we believe in. And so my advice is, it's not about money. It's about just getting out there and volunteering, engaging, supporting, hanging out with friends, getting out, just getting involved and being out there with people, because 100% you have a place, and 100% they love you. People connect on all sorts of things, but I can't imagine anything more cohesive than well-being to get around. Right? You can have different sports teams you cheer for, but at the end of the day, everyone wants to have a good life. And I think that's what well-being is all about. It's about understanding and building towards a better life for Manitobans.